All right, let's cut through the noise. There's a study out on an old drug being tested for Parkinson's. There's always a lot of hope, a lot of headlines. Our job isn't to hope. Our job is to look at the evidence. So let's do that. Let's see what the data actually says.
So here's the big question on the table. Can an old immune-suppressing drug actually slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease? A research team in the UK decided to put this to the test. Let's break down exactly what they did and what they found.
Okay, first things first. Why this drug? I mean, why on earth would you use an immune suppressant to treat a brain disease? It doesn't seem like an obvious connection, right? Well, here's the thinking behind it.
The truth is, the evidence has been piling up for years. We've got pretty good reason to believe the immune system has a role to play in Parkinson's. You know, we see it in genetic links, we see it in big population studies that show folks with autoimmune issues have a higher risk of developing Parkinson's. And here's the key, we have drugs for the symptoms, sure, but we have absolutely nothing that slows the disease itself down. So that makes the immune system a prime suspect and a really logical target for investigation.
So, you've got your target. Now you need a plan, a strategy. Here's how the researchers designed this trial to try and get a clean, unbiased answer.
The team used the gold standard in medical research, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. Now that's a mouthful, but the concept is simple. It's all about getting rid of bias. When neither the patient nor the doctor knows who's getting the real deal and who's getting a sugar pill, well then hope and expectation can't muddy the waters. It is the best way we have to find out if a drug truly works.
So here's how they set it up. Pretty straightforward. They got 66 people who were in the early stages of Parkinson's. Then a computer randomly split them into two groups. For a full year, half of them took the actual drug, Azathioprine, and the other half took a placebo, a dummy pill that looked exactly the same.
And this is what you want to see. Thanks to that random assignment, the two groups were basically mirror images of each other at the starting line. Same average age, same mix of men and women, same disease severity. The playing field was perfectly level. It's a fair fight.
Now, every good clinical trial has one main question it's designed to answer. We call this the primary outcome. It's the finish line they're aiming for. For this study, the single main goal was to see if the drug improved a specific score related to gait, posture, and balance, all things that Parkinson's hits hard. That was the test.
So that was the target. That was the finish line. The question is, did they hit it? This is the moment of truth.
And the answer? A flat-out, unambiguous no. The trial did not meet its primary goal.
And listen, you don't need a PhD in statistics to see it for yourself. Just look at this graph. The red line is the group that got the drug, the blue line is the placebo group. See how they're basically traveling right on top of each other for the whole year? That, right there, is the picture of what no effect looks like.
The numbers just confirm what our eyes are telling us. The p-value came in at 0.78. Now, in research, you're generally looking for a number below 0.05 to even start believing a result is real. A number this high basically means that any tiny little difference they saw was almost certainly just random chance. So the bottom line is clear. On the main goal, the drug failed.
But in science, a clear no on the main question isn't always the end of the line. Sometimes, the most interesting stuff is found when you start digging around in the secondary data.
So, is that it? Case closed? Well, not quite. The researchers had planned all along to look at some other measures too, and this is where things get a little more interesting.
It's really important to keep these two things separate in your mind. On one hand, we have the official verdict on the main question, no effect. Game over on that front. On the other hand, we have these exploratory findings. Think of them as hints, possibilities, clues that weren't the main point of the study but might be worth a look later on.
And here's one of those clues. When the researchers zoomed in and looked only at the data from the women in the trial, a little signal seemed to pop up. You can see the blue line, that's women on the drug, looks like it's starting to separate from the purple line, which is women on placebo. But, and this is a huge but, we're now slicing and dicing the data into very small pieces.
Let me be absolutely crystal clear on this. Finding a signal in a small subgroup of patients is not proof of anything. It's a hypothesis. It's an interesting question that might justify a future study, but it is not an answer from this one. These are breadcrumbs, not the whole loaf.
Okay, so we've got a negative result on the main goal and a few intriguing little clues from the side data. Let's put this all into perspective and talk about what this actually means in the real world. First, let's be very clear about what this study does not mean. It does not mean azathioprine is some new treatment for Parkinson's. It isn't. It does not mean people with Parkinson's should go ask their doctors for this drug. They shouldn't. And it definitely doesn't mean the whole immune system idea is wrong. It just means this particular very broad drug wasn't the right tool for the job.
So what did we actually learn? A lot, actually. We learned it's safe and feasible to even run a trial like this. We've confirmed the immune system is still a very valid target. We just might need newer, more specific drugs. And we've got a really valuable new clue. Future studies should probably be designed from day one to look for potential differences between men and women. That's real progress.
So, let's just cut to the chase. When you take all the evidence, what's the final no-nonsense takeaway here?
You know what? I'm going to let the people who actually did the work have the final say. The authors themselves concluded, and I'm quoting them directly, based on our results, there is no evidence to support the use of azathioprine as a treatment for Parkinson's disease. It doesn't get clearer than that. That's not my opinion. That's the data speaking.
And that right there is the sign of good science. A trial that doesn't meet its goal isn't a failure if it gives you a clear answer. And that's what we have. We now know this particular path is a dead end. But in the process, we've uncovered a few new paths that might just lead somewhere promising. The evidence gave us an answer, and now the search continues.